What's up, guys? This is another episode of Think Rich. I'm here with my Uncle Dean. I was with Uncle Donnie last week or a couple weeks ago, and now I'm with Uncle Dean. Don't get confused, okay? You don't get confused with the double D's. We got this, alright? How's it going, Dean? Are you doing well?
I'm doing very well, Jonathan, and yourself.
Dude, I'm doing so well. It's like so sunny outside. Like, I wish I was outside, but I'm here. So it's great.
That is good. That is good, and I'm very chuffed to be online with you.
Awesome. So let's talk business, Dean. You ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready. I'm ready to
Nice.
roll.
So you started Everyday Sport, right? That's the name, Everyday Sport.
Correct. Yes.
Awesome. So
Just
like,
to correct you there, I didn't start Everyday Sport.
okay.
I purchased it as a ongoing business
Oh, that's awesome.
in 2015, and the business had been sort of established from about 2012 onwards. So it had already been around for about 3 years.
Mm.
And I took it over from the guy who designed it and bought it, the concept.
Yeah, the buying a business, it seems like a lot of people do that. And it's not necessarily my approach, but like what are you trying to achieve when you do buy a business? Like what's going through your mind?
Well,
What's that mindset?
well, well, there were a couple of things. So when I went around, I used to have my own sports store, a brick and mortar store. So that meant that I would have to buy stock, I would have to pay a rental in a mall, and I would have to try and sell that stock and pay off all my bills and try and make a living from that.
Mm.
And for a while it was great, worked really nicely, but then those bills and the amount of stock, your exposure keeps increasing. So you start off selling 20 or 30 bikes a month, but eventually you're selling 40, 50, and you've got to carry the finance of that. And if you have a bad month and you carry the finance of that for a couple of months in a row, you you've got liabilities and you
Mm.
can very easily find yourself in trouble.
So were
And
you
we
we
started,
oh, yeah, keep going, sorry. Keep going.
yeah, so we started seeing that trend happening, and at the same time South Africa was experiencing like a sort of uh, a dip in retail sales. People were not spending their money as freely, or they didn't have a lot of disposable income. And
Mm.
all the goods that I sell are luxury items, right? So
Yeah.
so the first place they're going to make those cuts is coming out to a mall, and instead of buying a skateboard, they're going to go buy a loaf of bread and food.
Mm.
And we started seeing that dip, so we made a conscious decision before we got into too much trouble to close our shop down.
Mm.
But I love sport. I absolutely love sport. I've been involved in sport all my life, and I didn't really want to lose that kind of thing. So one of my suppliers, which was Everyday Sport, um, they were run by two guys full time, and their circumstances had changed, and they were looking to unbundle.
Which
And
means, sorry?
they were looking to unbundle from Everyday Sport, so they were looking to move it on. They were either going to close it down
Uh,
or sell it,
okay.
and they liked what we did, so they approached me to say, "Hi, how would you like to take over our shop?" And I
Mm.
said, "That's great. How much do you want for your shop?" And we entered into negotiations, and I got it for what I thought was a really good price. And since then, I've made several enhancements to the what I call my investment, and um, and I haven't looked back. It's a completely different business to anything else I've been involved in with regards to I don't own stock, so all my stock is sourced directly from suppliers. So
Mm.
my overhead's negligible.
So when you say
And
it's sourced from suppliers, do suppliers hold it and then you're just selling it from the warehouse?
correct.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
they
And then
store it, they hold it.
from
It's
previously you owned it. Did you like were you paying it off while it was in your shop? Is that what you were saying? All right.
correct,
All right.
correct. That's how all brick and mortar shops work. Whether
Mm.
you're a pick and pay, whether you're a sportsman's warehouse, whether you are a pharmacy, once you've got the product in your shop, you own it and you've got to buy it.
Mm.
and then sell it to make a profit.
And that just
So
obviously
there's a few
covers
exceptions.
the suppliers ask then because
Correct.
yeah, makes
Correct.
sense.
So it's the food chain, right? So you get the guys that manufacture the product, you get the guys that wholesale the product, and then you get the guys that retail the product. And the retailers are always at the end of the road, and that's why your brand name products are always so expensive. You know, if you go buy a Pep Stores t-shirt without a logo on, you're going to pay what, 50, 60, $70. But
Mm.
if you go buy uh,
Gucci,
uh,
Gucci flip
you know,
flops.
DNC or a Nike logo t-shirt,
Yeah.
can be the same material. You're going to pay 200, 300 rand for it.
Mm.
And that's the food chain. And that's the reason why things are so expensive, is because the overheads for a retailer are so much higher than for a wholesaler and
Mm.
then for a manufacturer.
But I've heard
And
that
I've just started with retail step.
but I've heard that the suppliers' prices are a lot cheaper, and then just because it's branded and it's on the store shelf, then store owners actually bump that up. But does that bumping up start at the actual
So,
at the source or
so
at the
for
retailer?
so for a store owner, so you buy, say if we talk t-shirts,
Mm.
so you've got to buy that t-shirt almost a year in advance, okay,
Wow.
before you get it in your shop. You go out to your buyer or your supplier and you pick and choose what you want from a catalog or from samples, and it's a whole season in advance, and you block book that product and you buy it in say if it's a t-shirt thing, the minimum range is either 6 or 8 you can buy at a time. For a retailer to make money on that, out of that 6 and 8, he has to sell two-thirds of that to make profit. And if he only sells a once-off T-shirt, once-off original T-shirt, he has to bump up the markup by a minimum to make any profit of 115% is the general rule.
Mm.
Some guys do 200%, and that is why you'd see your branded items so expensive. If you go to a factory shop, for instance, it's almost half the price sometimes.
Yeah.
And even those guys are still making a little bit of money from their product. So it's part of the food chain, and as you go to the end of the food chain, the more expensive a product gets, and because the overheads in getting that to that particular place is so high, and the retailer would have to do that to make those margins.
Okay.
Where everyday sport is a lot more effective is I don't have those costs. I don't have transport costs. I have distribution costs with regards to couriers, but
Mm.
I don't have warehousing costs. I don't have rentals. I don't have electricity costs. I don't have any costs that are normally associated with running a business. The
Mm.
most cost I have is a little bit of IT cost a year and my banking charges
And that's just on because your store's online, but people just go
because
to your
my
store.
store's online.
Yeah,
My
that's
store's online,
awesome.
and
That's the
that's why
future. Like,
that is the future. I mean, it's in South Africa we we're picking up. We're
mm,
picking up very fast. You've got your big players like your Takealots,
mm.
your Superblis, your Zandos. All of those guys
It's getting
are
very interesting because like I think we're going to see, like convenience stores at like that those kinds of shops getting closed down because the convenience now is online. The convenience
correct.
isn't worth like you can just drive a couple miles away. You can go on to Takealot and get anything, and I mean like from shoes to like anything really, right?
Yes,
So it's just
correct.
I think convenience stores especially are in a lot of trouble in the next
So,
couple of years,
so
even in South Africa.
even in South Africa and worldwide, it's a trend worldwide. You've got to also remember though that there's an ethical way of doing business and a non-ethical way of doing business, and we've got to I'm not going to point out to you who are the good guys and who are the bad guys,
Mm,
but there there is still a future. So if you, I mean, it's becoming very competitive for a normal everyday shopper now. They've got options whereby in the past you'd have your big branded chain stores that's where you would go and get your stuff. You know, now you've got options. Now you can compare online
mm,
for everything, whether it be insurance, whether it be medical aids, whether it be even doctors. You
mm,
know, you've got everything that you at your fingertips. Where we've got to be cleverer, our e-commerce sort of businesses is in how we market our products,
mm,
which I admit I'm not the best at.
mm.
It's
Are
one
you
of
on
my
social
weak points.
media?
I'm on social media, but I'm not very good at it.
Facebook and
And
Facebook, Twitter,
and
Instagram. You got on all of those?
yeah, yeah. Look,
Okay.
you know, they all are there, but so is everybody else. And those platforms are being flooded.
Mm,
Those platforms are being flooded. And if you speak to, it's also a generational thing. So your generation, that you don't necessarily mind being flooded with that kind of stuff
mm.
because that's what you know.
Yeah.
You've always had that. But my generation, we never used to be spammed. We never used to get all that kind of stuff coming through, and now we find it irritating.
Well, the thing
So
is,
you got
like
to
email was very spammy though, isn't it? Back in the day, email, everyone
no,
sent
because
emails.
not really. It's only becoming more so now. Only more so now. Email was your first kind of social media, whatever that was around before your Facebooking days
Mm,
and these kind of things. So you 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 know there is a place for it, but we've got to get cleverer and we've got to start looking at our target markets a little bit differently. and
mm,
and that's not to say that we exclude a target market. It's how you approach that target market in your advertising. And like I say, I'm not the expert there. People are actually being employed full time to do just those kind of jobs
mm.
for the e-commerce sites.
And
um
yeah, I would
yeah.
like to highlight just because there's a lot of kids watching. Um, I like Dean, and there's a lot of other people like Dean that are looking for kids or for teenagers to actually figure out social media for them to distribute their marketing or whatever. Because obviously we're on Instagram 24/7, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. That's where we live. It's like
Okay.
we know it more than anybody else. We've grown up with it, we understand it, and therefore, if you want to make a bit of a buck, you can DM, um, which is direct message. You can DM all these companies that you see aren't doing well on Instagram. They got like 50 to 100 followers, and go, yo, I can make you like 100 organic followers for this amount of money, or I can make you for this amount of money. I just need your account details or whatever. They give it to you. You make them the followers, and it really is simple. There's a couple of tricks that you can do that's really increased the I can like followers within a week. Like, yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
interesting.
And and that is brilliant and that's
Mm.
entrepreneurial. But
Yeah.
keeping in mind, an established company might have a trust issue with that
Mm,
because that we everyday sports, your whatever other company you're called,
mm,
we're a brand name and we've got a reputation.
exactly.
So we've got to be able to vet what goes out. We've got so it becomes quite complicated, right?
Mm,
From that aspect, whereby what you're talking about is it's almost like it's a free world. It's free world out there. We need to go ahead and tackle it, and and I'm not so sure. Like my age group, the there is a name for us, but I can't. You guys are the
a little bit
new
older generation. It's
generation.
like the mid generation, you guys.
The millennials, and then you get me, you know, and my age group, like we grapple with those kind of things,
Mm,
and it's always good to explore and learn. The younger generation can teach the older generation so much, like you've just said, in those things, whereby us older guys, we're more conservative maybe in our approach. We're still entrepreneurial. We still want
mm,
to make back. We still want to be profitable, and we still want to see some growth, which which is important for a company because if you don't have any growth and you're just staying even,
mm,
money's growing all the time. So if you're just staying even in your turnover, you're actually losing money.
mm.
So we need to partnership and 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 we need to somehow find ways to bring the the youthful element, let me call it that, the youthful element and the new age thinking into our businesses. And it
Espe-
doesn't matter whether
mm,
you are an established business been around for 100 years, whether
mm,
you like me, you're still in your first decade
mm.
of doing business. We've all got to start thinking out of the box in that way. um, Naspers is a great example of a company that was considered like a real staid, uh, slow moving giant. And what happened? They went and invested in a Chinese company called Tencent, and it's the largest e commerce company in the world.
Mm.
And the envy of billionaires all over, because they had the foresight to go into a market that was traditionally considered let's not play around there, and
Mm.
that's the kind of thing that we all need.
That's
Uh,
interesting though, because like I know that when in like just I don't know, just only in early 2000s was e-commerce actually starting to become a thing, right? But like in
yeah,
1900s or whatever, it wasn't. It was like the late 1900s or whatever, so 1980s, 1990s. It wasn't a thing really. I mean, like
yeah,
people thought you were crazy if you were selling on the internet because the internet was so new and bizarre, and people thought it was
yeah.
like a phase of just okay, this internet thing's going to be around, but it's going to die. Now it's the mainstream of entertainment, mainstream of everything. Like people live on the
Well,
internet now.
I can tell you now, my first experience with the internet was in around 1998, as you say, like
Mm,
late 90s. And then we had the 2000s, and we had there was a boom, IT boom around the 2000s to about 2004, and then things started crashing. I was employed by a large petrochemical company, one of the largest in the world,
mm,
and we introduced e-commerce. And our first 2 years, we labored in trying to get our clients, and our clients would be like large companies and petrol stations and things like that, to come on board to buy through e-commerce because running call centers were expensive, right?
mm.
So in that first 2 years, we only grew 5%. Only 5% of our customer base was on. When I left that the employer of that company in 2010, 85% of all our customers,
It was on.
85% of all our customers were online.
It's insane. Internet is amazing, man. It really
Yeah.
is.
Look, I mean, I think I'm almost very jealous that you guys are growing up in a world that is so fast moving and exciting.
Mm,
Um, we, when I grew up, we had radio, and then later black and white TV,
mm.
and that was a luxury
Yeah.
for most households for the first 10 years of our lives. And then and then TV. So, and then we've gone through the tape, the record, the tape, the CD, and the DVD
There's
revolution. When else did
Walkmans,
we watch
right? I
DVD?
know
Nobody
Walkmans.
watches it.
Did you have
Yeah,
a
as
Walkman?
right. Walkman, yeah, I had a Walkman.
Hell yeah.
I used to run with one. Little big box, little big box. I used to run with it on my hip. It used to create a bruise on my hip. And now, now it's, I mean, cell phones are now computers, and computers are now almost obsolete because you've got tablets and all
Mm,
these other little devices that can do just as much things. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you're now 60 kilometers apart. I can see your face. I mean, it's
mm,
amazing. And I guess what I'm saying is, we've we need to embrace the technology as opposed to always finding excuses on how not to use it correctly, because I find I've got to challenge myself in that aspect. And um, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't, you know? I think it was Richard Branson, he's closed more businesses than he's got successful businesses, but he's not afraid to keep trying. And you know, we all need to have that kind of sort of outlook. It's harder out there for everybody. It's harder for kids to find jobs. It's harder for adults to find jobs. And the people that are doing jobs that 50, 60-year-olds used to do it, they're now 20 and 30-year-olds doing it. So it's more competitive.
And
And we've
that's
got to find that edge. Everybody's got to find that edge. And I think technology can give it.
And that's why I
I really,
respect you so much as an entrepreneur, because when most people go out of business or whatever, like you did, or have that hiccup, people give up. People, do that thing, and that's what separates me as entrepreneur, not entrepreneur, not because that you make so much money and you've made it, but you can actually, okay, you've hit rock bottom where most people give up, and you still persevered and you bought another business or whatever, and there you go, and you're back in business again.
and,
That for me is
and that's
respect,
it.
respect.
That's the secret. The secret is A, keep going forward. Your mom will tell you in a race, when you start the comrades, you think to yourself, how am I going to run 90 kilometers? Right? No real human should be able to do that. But you can, because you keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Mm,
You don't go backwards, you go forward. That's the same principle.
mm.
Keep going forward. Don't stand still. Don't go backwards.
And it's so
Just
sad because
don't.
that is the way you learn. You learn through failure and you learn through the stuff. But the reason why people are wired this way, where it's like they fail big once and they give up, is because that's what we were taught in school. Failing is bad. Failing is, you don't use failure. Avoid failure. Try your best. Try and do it well the first time or whatever. And there's some like variance to that where it's good, and obviously you do try your very very best. But failure is like everyone knows. You got to go through a couple failures to make a success. But it's just that's
Facts.
not how it's taught in school, and that is, I think that's a big reason why a lot of people are now waking up, because there's obviously there's the internet and stuff, and now there's people are taught not just by school, but they can see like what, okay, this is how it actually is, like this is how
Yeah.
you become successful. And it's so brilliant because that's how I was taught as well. Like I started, well, actually in the beginning I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that's when that was like a switch.
Exactly.
Literally, I just that switched my mind. Like, okay, no, I knew, because I always knew like there's something funny about school. Like it's the stuff I'm learning is outdated. So why would like how am I supposed to know what I want to be when like all I know is just stuff from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, from where it was based from school. So it's like it's very, yeah. So
It's a dilemma.
once I read that, it switched, and I was like, okay, that is the answer. That is like, okay. And I just want that switch for everybody, for every kid, because kids think like that's the way the world is, and it just isn't. To be successful, you've got to fail. It's mandatory. You know.
And what worked for us 20 years ago is not necessarily going to work in the next 20 years. And we've got to be adaptable. And the one thing that things are going to change.
Mm,
Change is the only thing that's going to be a constant going forward,
mm,
because nothing is going to stay the same for very long.
mm,
We've seen it. Facebook's been around for 10 years, but Facebook's on the decline because
mm,
there's other products that are coming up.
mm.
Instagram's on the rise. Instagram's been on the rise for about 5 years, but you're going to see that something else is going to come
Come up.
take
Yep.
over. There's a lot of different things out there. I mean, we all used Skype in the early 2000s.
Mm.
Skype was the way we communicated, but now I'm using a product called Zoom. I didn't even know it existed until you mentioned it to me yesterday. And I spoke to my wife, and she said, no, they use it all the time, in her work. And I'm like, okay. And she
Mm.
told me about other
And
things that they,
look how better it is. Remember, Skype used to go, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like, look at the
exactly.
technology now. Like, right? Like,
And
I didn't upgrade my computer. It's just a better program. I can just see you, and like it requires less.
correct.
Everything is just it's getting better and better, and I can't wait to see like what the future has just for entrepreneurs and stuff. But I wanted to get back to like your business or whatever. So right,
Sure, sure.
so obviously you've been a CEO, you've been an entrepreneur, and like I said, there's quite a few kids listening that just want to soak up knowledge and learn. So when we walk into the hiring room, what are CEOs looking for?
The first thing is that I look for in a person is energy levels.
Okay.
Not what you know, not what you pretend you know, because youngsters normally come in with very limited information on their CVs, right? They don't have tons of experience. I look for energy levels. I look for engagement. I look for whether you are confident in yourself. And that doesn't mean that you can't be nervous, because nervous means that you care about
You
something,
care
right?
about it, yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. So I look for those kind of things, and that's more in body language than in attitude, really.
And that's
Uh,
crazy, eh? Like
I
how your
don't, I
body
don't,
could impact what like your future. That is bizarre, but it's so true, eh? It's ridiculous.
but correct. And in all the people that I've hired,
Mm,
I've taken, I've taken a few chances, but very few people have let me down with when I've taken chances on those people. Very few.
mm,
Um, so I'm quite comfortable with in that aspect, with my gut instinct on knowing the kind of person that I'm looking for. I also obviously want to know how they did at school. Everybody wants to know how you did at school. So education is important, but it's not the ultimate factor. I never went to varsity, and I came from a poor background whereby we didn't have backs to go, and my marks weren't good enough to get bursaries.
mm,
So I probably could have studied further later on in my life, but I've always had something else on the go. Um, so education is important, and I think it will become more and more important, but it's going to be more accessible going forward
mm,
to everybody. So the poorer kids are going to get a fair chance at having a go at going to varsity and hopefully colleges and things like that as well.
mm,
So yeah, education is important, but more importantly is the type of person.
mm.
I I thrive somebody who comes across as honest, has a bit of integrity, they're not shifty, um, somebody who
Sorry, just explain
uh,
shifty, just for like
so,
the.
so somebody who can't make eye contact, who's
Okay.
ducking and diving like that,
Yeah.
or the answers are pretty vague, so you kind of got to guess where
Mm,
you're going. So as you learn techniques on how to interview people as you go along in life, and you can do courses and whatnot. And I've done a few of those, but it's really about the person. So if I think that you've got a bit of spark and you can add a bit of difference, and you might not have the greatest qualification, but
mm,
the other guy that I'm interviewing has got like really good qualifications, but he's like he can't string, he
mm.
can't look me in the eye, he can't tell me that he's honest, he can't whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for you. You
And
know, so
was that, and that's, I think that's like a lot to do with your culture, obviously, because you want positive people in your business and whatever,
well,
right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct. So in the certainly in the businesses I've been involved in,
Mm,
um, have been about you need to be able to deal with people.
mm,
So it doesn't matter whether you are the most genius of computer programmers.
mm,
I need you to be able to convey what you're wanting to design
mm.
to a client. And if you can't do that, then you
So
know
interesting.
you're not gonna land what I need. You might be a genius, but I can't just use you in a single aspect. I need so I guess what I'm saying is an all-rounded person,
Mm,
somebody who's stable, somebody who is honest, who can come across clearly.
mm.
I don't care if you're nervous. Let me reiterate. You can stutter, you can speak with a funny accent, you can do whatever you want, but if you can engage me like you're engaging me now, I know that there is something there that I can work with.
Mm,
because nobody comes into a job knowing everything about that job, right? You get
mm.
trained to do your job. Doesn't matter whether you're a teller at a supermarket or whether you're a computer programmer. The computer programmers that come from varsity and whatnot, they have to often unlearn what they've learned at varsity and learn how to program in different languages.
Yeah.
So, so, and I'm just using those kind of examples. It's not specific to the type of people I used to hire. I've hired across a wide segment of businesses.
But that's so
And
interesting though, because like businesses now, it's not like you said, it's not about what you know. It's about like, okay, do you have the emotional intelligence to communicate that? Do you have the emotional intelligence to like actually have that culture or whatever? And it's amazing because like obviously it makes so much sense because if you have a person that's confident and really loves what you're doing and is going to show up on time, and the person next to him is, you know, he's going to get you sales, but you don't know if he's going to show up or if he's actually going to give his 100%. He's a bit cocky. You're going to go for like the second guy 9 times out of 10 because like it's not a, even if he does get you more sales, it's not about that. If he's going to ruin your culture, that bad apple, if he's going to be that bad apple and ruin everybody else's day every time he comes to work, it's not worth
correct.
any paycheck.
And there's a couple of things. I mean, negativity in the workplace is
Mm?
right.
Yeah.
You know, when people are going through a tough time, they can get down, but you've got to maintain a level of professionalism at all time, and it's it's essential. So yeah, cockiness is good in a business. It might show a little bit of ambition. It might show a little bit of you've got the fight to get ahead. But as you say, you know, I want somebody that's reliable, somebody who's going to be there on time, deliver an honest day's job.
Mm,
He doesn't necessarily have to be a high flyer every day of his life, but if he is honest and stable and respectful, and he can incorporate the company culture, 100%. He's
mm,
going to do okay. He's going to do okay. And, I'm not sure they teach that kind of stuff at school. Um, I know that some schools they'll tell you about CVs and how to sit in a chair and whatnot, and
sit
all
in a
that stuff
chair.
is good. Well, sometimes, yeah, because if you fidgeting in a chair, if you keep fidgeting and you've got your arms crossed and everything like that, you're conveying certain body languages.
Yeah.
So some schools do that kind of stuff, but I don't think they do it enough. I don't think they
Mm,
focus on it enough. It's more of a goof off lesson than
mm.
a than an actual life lesson. And um, I've got to tell you, my first job interview was horrendous. Was horrendous, and it was even set up for me. I didn't really need to have the interview, but um, we had this interview, and I was a blubbering mess. I couldn't string two sentences together.
Mm,
But somebody saw something in me, and that's why I say nervousness is not always a bad thing because it means you care about the job. You want the job. If you're nervous, it means you want the job. If you're all nonchalant and flippant with your answers and stuff like that, it means you don't really want this job.
mm.
You don't really want this job. And I'd rather have somebody say to me, hey, dude, I don't want this job. Have you got something else for me? I'd rather have somebody say that openly and honestly to me, and then I can say, okay, maybe I'm trying to put a round peg in a square hole or whatever it's called. You know,
Yeah.
so those are kind of the things that I look for in people. Yes, education is important. I'm not going to say it's not, but
Mm,
it's not the be all and end all.
mm,
Having degrees are becoming more and more important. Uh, I've encountered that in my life, but I don't believe that somebody without a degree and somebody with a degree is less necessarily a better person.
mm.
So, so
So this would be interesting to me. So if you, let's say someone with a degree comes to you, and someone without a degree but has let's say worked for a very big e-commerce store, right? They both got the right culture. They've both very hard-wounded people. But this one has like 5 years of whatever e-commerce experience, whatever. He's worked with the best and best in South Africa, whatever. But this guy obviously has been to school. He's ticked all the boxes. Who would you pick?
Well, it's a difficult question because if they both have been doing the job, right? Both have been doing the job, and the one is more qualified than the other, and they both show that sort of interest in the work, then you've got to go for the more educated guy. And that's why I say education
Mm.
is key.
Mm.
And most HR departments will back me up on that. When I say HR, human resource departments that do a lot of interviewing.
Mm.
And what I found when I was in the job market looking for work and to try to get back into an IT line of work, when you apply for jobs online, when you are just a nameless, faceless person, you're a number in a queue. Your differentiator on your CV is your education, right? So that's what becomes important in that aspect. But if I get you in the chair and I can determine who's the better person or the better fit for the job, I don't necessarily go back to the CV and say, well, this guy's better, but pity he doesn't have that. Pity and he got a got a B in maths instead of an A. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? That's kind of what I'm getting at. So I'm not saying education is not important. I'm saying it is important and it can be the differentiator, but it's not the be all and end all.
Mm.
And that there are jobs, and specifically in the e-commerce world, whereby you can't go and study for them.
Mm. Yeah, like I
There's
was
no,
saying with the
there's no
social media or
social
whatever,
media degree.
you get social
There's no
media
social.
courses, but like you
Yeah,
don't. Yeah, you don't go study social media in
yeah,
university, and when you do, it's outdated. As soon as it hits a textbook, it's outdated.
absolutely. So what I'm saying is there is a place for everything,
Mm.
but if you have got both, you that guy who's going to show up every time, and you've got a good education to match,
Mm.
and I'm interviewing a guy who's like kind of got the same kind of education, and he's nonchalant, and he's
Mm.
not like answering my questions directly, or I catch him out in a lie or something like that.
Mm.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
go for the answer, you know.
definitely.
And that's what I'm saying.
All right,
So
Dean. This has been
yeah,
awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Jonathan, thank you. It has been really really awesome. I hope your enterprises go from strength to strength as well. I wish you the best,
Thank you.
and keep at it. I think you got a bright future, and you know you are thinking differently to what the average kid thinks about.
Thank you.
So, and I can't even call you a kid because you're taller than I am, you're bigger than I am, you're a young man. So keep it up and well done.
Thanks, man. So at the end, we always plug this thing that you guys are on about. So let's let the audience know what your website is. Like, where can they find you?
Okay, so I'm at www.everydaysport.co.za, and the store is about general sporting equipment,
Hmm.
and I've got just about everything for anybody.
That's awesome. If you're a sporty person, if you feel like well, you guys do like running stuff, right? As well, you do like all sorts of sports stuff.
All sorts of sports, from running to recreational stuff to surfing to skateboarding, cycling, you name it.
So yeah,
I've
you
got
can
it.
run over to Everyday Sport, go to your computer, type in www.everydaysport.co.za, right?
That's it.
Awesome. I remember that from literally from saying the ad for you guys. You guys are gonna get that a bit later. But Everyday Sport, guys, the link is in the description. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you did, go down to Everyday Sport and pick up, I don't know, what's a cool item? Shoes. Cheers, guys.